Hey guys, it's Matt Wenning at WenningStrength.com, and today we are going to talk about something that I think everybody needs to hear, and that is we need to enjoy the road to getting stronger, but we need to remember a couple key points. So let's get to it.
Lately I've been living like I can't take a loss. They ain't wanna help me, that's what made me a boss. You can't kill my confidence, I think I'm the man. We don't give a f***, that's what they don't understand. I'm back again like flu season, I broke records while loose leafing. I'm coming down my roof, leaving, don't give a f***, I don't care. Did the by my lonesome, no wonder now I'm on one. No shortcuts on that long run, all I really want is my share.
Now, for those of you guys that are utilizing these YouTube videos and getting a lot out of them, I highly suggest that you can come and help us on the YouTube channel by commenting and reposting the actual links for the YouTube channel. We have a hard time because we cover a lot of highly education things compared to the other YouTube channels, so it messes up our algorithm. So if you guys can and you're watching this video, please go and leave a couple of comments or repost the link in order for us to get more traction in the health and fitness community. So with that being said, let's get to the topic. Getting strong for me has always been a passion. When I was 11 years old, I walked into the house that I was living in at the time, and my uncle was working out in our family room, which was attached to the garage. And he had brought this old sand-filled set of weights in, and I was a bigger kid. At 11 years old, I was probably about 150, 160 pounds. I was already a competitive swimmer. I was already a very good bicyclist, actually getting some sponsorships for short track racing on wooded areas and big hills, as big as the hills get in Indiana. So the point is, I had very good conditioning in my legs, my shoulders and everything were already pretty fit. I walk in, my uncle's benching. I go to bench with him and I impress him extremely. I did somewhere around 135 pounds for about 8 to 10 reps the first time I ever touched a weight. And that was at 11 years old. So I don't think too many people would be able to do that, but I was a bigger kid. It wasn't even my body weight. So that started the process to me wanting to be very, very strong. You know, you impress one of your idols. Usually it's a family member at first, a father or an uncle. And that led my mom to get me a membership at the local YMCA, which was about 1.5 miles, 2 miles away. We'd ride our bikes down there and train. And that's just part of the story. If you want to hear more of that, go into the powerlifting manual. I write down my entire history of training. But what I started to realize is that there's a lot of things that are important once you put 20 years of work into weight training. So by the time I was about 31 to 35, I started to realize that some of the things I had done by default, not because I knew exactly what I was doing, were positive in making me stronger and also keeping me in the game for a long time. I found that most of the time that when I turned 28 years old is the first time I broke an all-time world record. Most of the time by 28 years old, most people are already completely out of the sport, banged up and have so many injuries that it's no longer even fun to train. Me, that's when the training really started to take off. So I find that training in an educational thought process and getting smarter as you get stronger is super important. So we'll put that as number one. You need to get smarter as you get stronger. If you do not get smarter as you get stronger, what you will do is think that the stuff that got you, say, from a 200 to a 300 pound bench is going to get you from a 400 to a 500 pound bench. And most of the time what that's going to do is destroy your body. So this leads us into the first major point, which is do not trade strength for joint health or you will have neither. Now what does that mean? That means that if I do a bunch of dumb shit, and I'm going to say dumb shit and I'm going to put it in my wheelhouse, like linear periodization or training with the same shit over and over again, you can get stronger that way and it will work for a long time. But what I found is by the time I got up to a 500 pound bench at 20 years old, I was only training with a straight bar at a certain grip almost all the time. My shoulders were pissed, my elbows were pissed, my neck was getting pissed, and my body overall was not recovering. And that was probably about the end of the road until I trained differently. And that means that I had to start utilizing different implements to get better. So what I think joint health and strength are is the fact that you need to rotate stimuluses constantly. If you don't start rotating stimuluses, you're going to have an issue with joints, and then you won't have either joints or muscle. So keep that in mind when you're training, and understand that why we train the way we train is so that we can keep training. The person that lifts for 25 or 30 years in a little bit more non-specific fashion is going to be a lot less beat up and a lot more transferable in their strength than someone that does classic lifting in the exact same spots all the time. Now, if you want to get strong really, really fast, that's the fastest way to do it, is specificity. But generality is what actually keeps you in the game and allows you to reach those superstar level strength statuses, in my opinion. The second thing is technical advice from lifters, and I'm throwing this out there because I've just posted like Mel Gibson with a gun to his face and this kid standing next to a cannon getting ready to get his head blown off. And trust me, those feelings are around constantly when you become semi-known in the strength and conditioning field. But here's the thing I want you guys to understand. Technical advice comes from long careers, degrees, not influencers and meatheads. Am I a meathead? Yes. Have I broke records? Yes. But I also invested in myself educationally. I was also willing to take the long road to get better. I'm going to give you a small example. When I was 22, 21, I squatted my first 700 pounds in the USAPL drug-free. I got all the way up to an 826 pound squat with absolutely no performance enhancing drugs and a 320 level test, which is very low. A lot of that came from the bicycle accident and having the surgeries. But what I started to find was that as I invested in myself, started to be getting my degrees and more experience in an educational status, my thought process got so much more dialed. And by the time I had reached what I consider genetic potential, which was about 20, 21 years old, my lifts took off to a completely different stratosphere again. And the reason was I got smarter. But I took advice from people that were much better than me and had better technique than I did. George Halbert, 10-time plus world record holder in the bench. Eddie Cohen, 70 plus world record lifter and powerlifting. Take a look at this particular picture of Eddie Cohen's shins. Straight fucking angle, right? Okay, so we start looking at these types of things and you start to understand that there are only a handful of people in the strength conditioning and the bodybuilding and the powerlifting field that actually have enough information to transfer over to you to get stronger, healthier. There's a lot of guys that can get you stronger, but to get there with no mileage and no repercussions, that's difficult. So my point is that take technical advice, nutritional advice from people that have been there and people that are willing to invest in themselves educationally. The last point I want to make in the video is specialized equipment you're going to eventually need. And this isn't a sales pitch. I don't really care if you come on to WenningStrength.com and buy what we have. It'd be nice. But the point is that eventually, as you get older, you're going to need to learn how to train with less and less mileage. That's where belt squats come in. That's where good morning machines come in. That's where fat bars come in. That's where a lot of this other equipment comes in. You're eventually going to need bands and chains due to the strength curve, okay? Force velocity relationships, which we're showing you in these graphs, they all get heavily changed over time by using bands and chains. The reason that you hear a lot of people say specialized equipment isn't needed, especially bands and chains, and you don't need different kinds of bars, is because there is no studies that go 5 and 10 years long. Most studies done in strength conditioning or strength in general in the United States are done anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks with less than 10 subjects, meaning that it doesn't have a huge sample size and we don't have long enough to show real transition. So the point is that unless you're looking at stuff that goes into months and years of research like A.S. Prilipin's chart, stuff from the Soviet Union and the Bulgarians, you're going to be running into a major issue because the stuff you're basing your training on with science really isn't science at all because it's not long enough and it's not controlled enough. So I hope this starts to help you guys a little bit with making a smarter transition into training. If you need help, come on to WenningStrength.com. Go on to online coaching. At the bare minimum, come on to manuals. Now we do have a sweepstakes going on, a free raffle if you buy one of the 3 manuals on the links in Instagram and on the website. You can win a belt squat for absolutely free and I will deliver it to you. So I'll talk to you guys later and please go visit WenningStrength.com.
Lately I've been living